The day before our engagement, my rich second-generation girlfriend Grace Han was absent-minded while shopping with me, drifting along as if her thoughts were somewhere far away. Trying to please her, I bought a 6-yuan fried chicken cutlet from a street stall and held it up to her mouth with a smile, but she knocked it to the ground in fury. Domingo, the Han family needs someone who can be presentable on stage. Don't buy these cheap things that only embarrass me. How are my parents supposed to accept you? She snapped, and under the stares of strangers I awkwardly picked up the chicken cutlet and tossed it into the trash can. For the sake of our 4 years of college love, I nodded and said, "Whatever you say." I thought that would be the end of it, but the next day she changed the person she was getting engaged to, Jordan. Domingo, Jordan tried to commit suicide just to be with me and ended up in the hospital. When he gets back to normal, I will definitely return to you. I still nodded and broke up with her. Whatever you say. Then I turned and left. 4 years later, she showed up at my small apartment holding the diamond ring I once used to propose to her. Domingo, Jordan has agreed to divorce me. We can be together now. I told you as long as Jordan could let go of his obsession with me and stop hurting himself, I would return to you. I frowned at Grace's deeply affectionate expression, thinking I really must not have checked the almanac before leaving the house today. I had only returned to this small place on a whim to pick up some things, yet I still ran into this mentally unstable ex-girlfriend. I pushed her out the door. "Move aside. Don't make me late to pick up my kid from school." Grace followed behind me and said, "I checked everything. In these 4 years, no other woman has ever set foot in this cabin. Where did your kid come from? I know you're angry. I'll take you home with me right now. Even though your family is poor and relies on raising chickens to get by, I've already convinced my parents. They won't look down on you anymore." I turned my head and frowned at her. "I told you my family raises chickens across several whole mountains." Grace scoffed. "That's still chicken raising. Don't you dare mention that in front of my parents. It's way too low class." There was no way to reason with a spoiled, rich second-generation princess like her. She had no idea how valuable naturally raised free-range organic chickens over entire mountains are. We became wealthy from that long ago. I quickened my pace because if I didn't hurry I'd be late picking up my son from school. But Grace Han trailed after me, saying, "I can take you back to the Han house right now. The villa is big. Even though Jordan hasn't moved out yet, it's big enough for you too. But you need to be polite to him. He's sensitive. Be patient with him. Don't trigger him." What the hell? I stared at Grace in shock. "You haven't even divorced yet and you're out here bothering me? And you want me to live with you and your current husband? What do you take me for? Your side guy or some pathetic pretty boy you keep around? Are you out of your mind?" I opened the car door and got in, wanting to get as far away from her as possible, but she opened the passenger side door without hesitation and sat down herself, muttering, "I told you before. Lock the doors as soon as you get in the car. Safety first. How are you still this careless?" Her tone was so familiar, just like 4 years ago, as if nothing had ever happened, and looking at Grace glued to me step by step, a surge of anger shot straight up my spine. "Get out. Now." But she buckled her seatbelt with a smug expression like she was about to expose me and said, "Aren't you going to pick up your kid? Drive then. You'll be late." I glanced at the time and realized I really was running out of time. If everyone else left and only my son was still waiting, he would be heartbroken. I stepped on the gas and pulled out of the garage, frowning as I said, "When you see my son, don't say anything stupid." Grace casually agreed. "Fine, I won't." "Domingo, you're really putting on quite the act. I'd love to see where you're planning to pull a son out from." Driving, I forced myself to calm down, and stopped at a red light. I looked at the crowded traffic ahead and asked quietly, "Grace, why do you think after 4 years, I would still be waiting for you?" My low voice made Grace freeze for a moment, and a flicker of unease crossed her mind, but it was quickly replaced by her usual certainty. "After you've seen me, how could anyone else possibly catch your eye? Other than me, who else with real class would you even meet? If you weren't waiting for me, who could you possibly find?" I let out a long sigh, finally understanding that in her mind, I'm someone who doesn't deserve anything better. And that's why she left without hesitation back then and came back now with full confidence. The light turned green and I stepped on the gas. As we passed the intersection, I said quietly, "Grace, I'm not joking with you. I'm married and I have a child. When the car stops, you should go. I don't want you disturbing my life now." Grace frowned slightly, as if I had just said something childish. "Domingo, you think you can fool me like that? I know you're mad. However you want to lash out, I'll stay with you. Until you're done and willing to come back to me." Chapter 2. Since talking couldn't convince her, I decided the only way was to let her see it with her own eyes and give up once and for all. The kindergarten gates had just opened when a small figure spotted me. "Daddy, why are you so late today?" My son opened his arms and ran toward me with a sweet smile that melted everything in its path. I bent down and scooped him up. "Daddy went back to the old home to pick up some things today and made you wait. How about Daddy makes it up to you by taking you to eat some fries later?" "Okay." He hugged me happily, nodding against my shoulder. Grace never expected that I would actually bring a little kid back with me. Her expression shifted instantly. "Domingo, even if you're joking, there should be a limit. How can you just hold someone else's child like that? If this gets serious, it's called child abduction. You could go to jail, you know. Hurry up and send him back." She reached out angrily and grabbed my son's arm, trying to pull him away. I slapped her hand away without thinking and pulled my son tightly into my arms. "What are you doing?" The kindergarten teacher noticed the commotion and walked over. "Ah, this must be Tom's mother. I've always only seen Tom's father. I've never met you before." Finally meeting the mother now. Grace froze, staring at me in disbelief. "He's really your son?" "Of course." I was about to leave with my son, but Grace stepped in front of us again. She looked straight at the teacher. "How old is this child now?" "He's 3 this year." 3. Grace's eyes fell on my son, who stood half a head taller than the other children. Suddenly she grabbed my hands tightly. "Domingo, his age is fake, right? He should be 4. The child we had back then, he didn't die, right? You hit him, didn't you?" I met her gaze calmly. "If that child were still alive back then, would you still have married Jordan?" She choked on her words, then lowered her head. "Jordan would have died if he didn't marry me." I let out a cold laugh. "You're not worthy of mentioning our child again. Domingo, I'm taking you and our son home right now. My parents have been wishing for me to have a child all these years. If you bring our son home, they definitely won't care about our different backgrounds anymore." I nearly rolled my eyes. "Who wants to go back with you?" I said, "He's not your child. Do you not understand human language?" "Domingo, stop making trouble. I will never allow the bloodline of the Han family to be left wandering outside. Why didn't you tell me earlier? How could you let our child attend a school like this in such a shabby and crowded place? How can a child be properly educated like this?" I glanced at the kindergarten, then back at her. This is a provincial model kindergarten that can directly advance a child into top primary, middle, and high schools. Do you even understand the value of a provincial top school? It's far better than that so-called noble school of yours where kids just waste time. I specifically had Sabine transfer my son here because I didn't want him picking up the arrogance and entitlement of those spoiled rich kids. I shook my head. "I never expected you to look down on it like this. Honestly, I'm relieved I never married someone with such short-sighted vision. Stay away from us. You have nothing to do with this." "If he's not my son, then whose could he be?" Grace demanded, grabbing Teacher Wang. "Tell me." The mother listed in the child's file. "Who is it?" Because I didn't want to reveal our identity, the mother field had never been filled in. The teacher didn't know who the child's mother was. When Grace heard that the mother field was empty, her conviction deepened. "Domingo, it hasn't been easy for you to raise our son alone all these years. You've been stubborn long enough. Come home with me." My son, confused by the argument, whispered softly into my ear, "Daddy, aren't we going to eat fries?" As if she had heard something outrageous, Grace exploded. "Domingo, how could you let my son eat that kind of garbage food? You used to love those cheap fried chicken cutlets from roadside stalls, and now you're feeding my son things that are dirty and unhealthy. What if he gets sick? Can you take responsibility for that?" He's the only heir of the Han family. I make fries at home using a nanny who cooks them especially for my little boy. How is that unhygienic? I ignored her and carried my son toward the car. But Grace stepped in front of the door. Don't sit in that broken car of yours. My son shouldn't be wronged like that. To avoid attracting attention, I had deliberately chosen a modest, ordinary-looking car. It wasn't luxurious, but the back seat had been completely remodeled to be the safest and most comfortable for my son. If Grace had even taken one glance inside the back seat just now, she would have seen everything clearly. She would have noticed that I had a child, that I had arranged the seat carefully, that every corner was padded and secured, that I protected him well. But she had never cared about anything of mine. Not once. Not 4 years ago, not now. She didn't look. She simply pointed at her Mercedes and said, "Domingo, stop pretending you're fine. Only I can give you and the child the best life." Just as the words left her mouth, Jordan appeared. He was wearing a tailcoat, completely out of place on this noisy, crowded street in front of a kindergarten. He walked as if the ground itself offended him, lifting his steps delicately in disgust, frowning slightly at the surroundings. "Grace, didn't you go pick up Domingo? What are you doing here? After you're done, you still have to come with me to meet the mysterious new chairman of the Ning Corporation." The moment Grace saw him, her expression softened. Her voice turned gentle. "I remember, Jordan. Don't worry, I won't forget your matters. Domingo has a little situation to deal with here. I'll go with you afterward to meet Sabine. You're so handsome and charming. She'll definitely like you and agree to marry you, becoming Sabine Ning's husband. The Ning family is the #1 family in a city. They're much more powerful than our Han family. Jordan, you'll definitely be happy. I'll settle things quickly. Wait for me, all right?" For a second, I froze. Their conversation felt absurd. Were they really talking about what I thought they were? Jordan supporting Grace in finding her ex-boyfriend, and Grace helping Jordan find a new partner. And the key point was, this Sabine. Don't tell me they were talking about my wife. Chapter 3. My expression grew complicated as I looked at Jordan. This guy really had it out for me. He straightened his collar smugly and said proudly, "I mean, I'm just way too charming." But when he turned and saw me holding a child, he let out a sharp shriek. "Domingo, this kid is—" Grace panicked and rushed to explain. "He's my son. Jordan, let me explain." It was as if Jordan had been struck by lightning. He staggered slightly and clutched his chest dramatically. "Grace, you had a child with him behind my back? You could have abandoned me back then. But why did you betray me? You never touched me all this time. Was it all because of this father and son?" Seeing him look so devastated, Grace hurried to comfort him. "Jordan, it's not what you think. It was before we got married. You know, I had a premature baby with him. He was terrified of being poor and losing me, so he secretly hid the child to tie me to him. I only found out today. Jordan, don't lower yourself to her level, okay?" Jordan pointed at me, eyes red with what looked like anguish. "Domingo, how shameless can you be? You actually hid Grace's child all these years. Do you even have a conscience?" My son didn't understand the meaning behind those words, but he understood the tone. He knew Jordan was scolding me. He lifted his tiny finger, pointed it straight at Jordan's nose, and shouted fiercely, "You bad guy! Why are you yelling at Daddy? You're awful." Jordan's face twisted instantly. He raised his hand to strike the child. I reacted without thinking. With my son in one arm, I spun and caught Jordan's wrist midair. My voice turned cold. "Try laying one finger on my son." Grace grabbed my arm anxiously. "Domingo, let go of Jordan. He didn't mean it. It's your fault for hiding the child from him all this time." How could he not be angry? She could say whatever she wanted about me. I didn't care. But no one was allowed to touch my son. I released Jordan's wrist only to slap him across the face, harder than necessary. The sound rang out sharply in the air. I looked at Grace and said coldly, "Control your man. If he dares hurt my son again, I'll make him pay 1,000-fold." "You hit me?" Jordan shrieked, holding his cheek. I'm still the man of the Han family. Grace Han is the current general manager of the Han Group. One move from her and you'd be crushed. Don't think having her son means anything. The Han family still won't accept you. Even if I leave, the next master of the Han family definitely won't be you. I let out a cold snort. Only Jordan cared about that kind of title. Ha! What kind of stupid Han family master? A dog wouldn't even want that. You called me a dog? Jordan wrapped an arm around Grace's shoulder and glared venomously at my son. Grace, look at Domingo now. What can the kid possibly learn by staying with him? You need to take the child back to the Han family for proper upbringing. Grace frowned, staring at me as if I were the unreasonable one. Jordan is right. Give me my son. I can give him the best life. Don't even think about it. The moment I saw the two of them about to move, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my child and ran toward the kindergarten entrance. As I ran, I pulled out my phone and called Sabine. Sabine, someone is trying to take our son. I'm at the kindergarten entrance. Come right now, bring people. Behind me, Grace chased after us, shouting, Domingo, he's also my son. He must return with me to the Han family. Chapter 4. The commotion quickly drew a crowd. Parents, teachers, passers-by. Everyone surrounded the kindergarten entrance and turned to look. Someone recognized Grace almost immediately. Isn't that President Han? The female CEO of Maple Leaf Group. And the man next to her must be her husband. I've seen him on the news. No wonder we've never seen the kid's mother. So he's an illegitimate child after all. President Han clearly has a husband, and this guy still insists on being the homewrecker. Shameless. People like them actually go to the same school as our kids. It's humiliating. Yeah, what if they set a bad example for our children? Teachers, expel them immediately. We can't let our kids go to school with people like that. The shouting grew louder, wave after wave of voices demanding we be thrown out. I raised my voice over the noise. He isn't Grace's son. She and I have long-cut ties. She's trying to take my child away. Please, someone help me. If you don't believe me, I can call the police and let them decide. Jordan sneered, his eyes full of mockery. Ha! Aren't you just trying to use your son to cling to Grace? Your plan failed, so now you're panicking. Grace is only taking back her own son. Filing a false police report is punishable, you know. The people who had been about to call the police slowly lowered their phones when they heard that. Seeing this, I had no choice but to call the police myself. But Grace suddenly reached out to grab my son. In the chaos, my phone slipped from my hand and fell to the ground as I held my child tightly. Jordan stepped on my phone and crushed it, then swung his fist hard at my head. A sharp pain exploded inside my skull. At the very last second, I curled up in a corner with my child locked in my arms. The pain was blinding. I couldn't move for a long while. Help! I called out weakly. Grace frowned in disgust. Jordan only hit you once. How bad could it be? Stop pretending. So many people are watching. Don't you feel embarrassed? My head spun violently. I wanted to defend myself, but no words would come out. Jordan must have been wearing something hard on his finger. Probably metal. All I could do was cling to the railing beside me, shielding my son with every bit of strength I had left. Through the haze and ringing in my ears, I finally heard a familiar voice. Domi, son, I'm here. Sabine had just finished signing a contract and was dressed in exquisitely tailored haute couture that should have made her look elegant and dignified. Yet in that moment she rushed toward me in pure panic. She gently touched my head in distress, and her fingers came away wet. When she lifted her hand, it was covered in blood. Who did this? Sabine roared, fury blazing in her eyes as she scanned the crowd and immediately locked onto Grace and Jordan. She grabbed Grace and yanked her forward. How dare you hurt Domingo? You must be tired of living. Grace was shoved against the wall and Sabine slapped her hard across the face. Grace had meant to fight back, but the instant she clearly saw Sabine's face, she froze and slowly lowered her hand. Chairwoman Ning, why are you here? Jordan was startled and threw a punch towards Sabine. Let go. Where did this shrew come from, daring to touch Grace? Do you even know who Grace is? She could crush you with a flick of her wrist. But the aggressive Jordan was instantly blocked by Sabine's bodyguards. The line of well-trained men formed a human wall, and his arrogance vanished at once. I saw him discreetly remove something from his hand. Sabine noticed it too, the subtle movement as he slipped it into his pocket, and she immediately understood what the weapon was. You're the one who hurt Domi. She walked toward him with unmistakable murderous intent. He was restrained by several bodyguards, his legs trembling uncontrollably. He wanted to run, but he couldn't move an inch. Grace hurried to stand in front of him. Domingo hit himself. It has nothing to do with Jordan. Jordan quickly added, guiltily, exactly. He ran into something on his own. Don't you dare frame me. Someone in the crowd shouted, Who do you think you are? Laying hands on our President Han. Apologize right now or we'll drive you out of a city. Jordan. Shut up. Grace snapped, then glanced cautiously at Sabine. Chairwoman Ning, what is your relationship with Domingo? Chairwoman Ning, you're the Sabine Ning? Jordan's voice trembled. Chairwoman Ning, why are you here? We were actually planning to visit you tonight. He looked at Sabine, then at me, disbelief twisting his face. He muttered, Sabine is Chairwoman Ning. Impossible. Isn't she single? Why would she stand up for Domingo? As if grasping at his last hope, Jordan suddenly pointed at me. Chairwoman Ning, you don't know yet, do you? This man's child belongs to Grace. He's a liar. Please don't fall for it. Sabine's voice turned icy. 2 idiots. And you dare try to steal my son. I tugged weakly at her hand. Sabine. Come here. I can't hold on anymore. She stopped wasting time on them. With the help of her bodyguards, she hurried me and my son into the car. Then she pointed at Jordan's pocket. Take whatever he has in there and hand it over to the police. Charge him with intentional assault. Grace was still in shock. When she saw the bodyguards reaching into Jordan's pocket, she stepped forward to stop them, even though she didn't know what he was hiding. But they didn't hesitate. In just a couple of moves, they shoved her aside. Jordan's legs shook violently. So many people had witnessed the chaos, and quite a few had recorded everything. They all saw him hit me. If the thing in his pocket fell into Sabine's hands, he would be finished. Suddenly he broke free and sprinted away. Grace gasped and, afraid he might get hurt, ran after him. The bodyguards gave chase. In the struggle, a steel knuckle duster slipped out and clattered onto the ground. The sharp metallic sound rang out clearly. Grace stood frozen where she was. As my face grew paler and paler, Sabine stopped caring about anything else. Forget everything, head to the hospital first. With her command, the car sped off. Behind us, Grace stared blankly at the blood-stained knuckle duster lying on the ground. You used this to hit Domingo's head. Grace's voice trembled as she stared at the steel knuckle duster. Jordan stammered. I was doing it for the Han family's child. Who knew he? He cut himself off abruptly as something seemed to click in his mind. What if that kid is a bastard? If he's Sabine's child, doesn't that mean you and Domingo were still together when they started seeing each other? Grace, Domingo betrayed you. Grace's brows drew together tightly. She grabbed Jordan's arms and shook him as if trying to wake him from a nightmare. No, Domingo wouldn't betray me. He wouldn't. Like someone possessed, Grace drove wildly toward the hospital. My head wound was wrapped tightly as I lay on the bed. Sabine had gone to speak with the doctors, and her bodyguard stood firmly at the ward door, blocking the entrance. The questions Grace had rushed here to ask died on her lips the moment she saw me lying there. How are you? I looked at her coldly. Are you blind? She bit her lip. Jordan really went too far this time. He knows he was wrong. Don't hold it against him. I let out a hollow laugh. I was beaten until my head was covered in blood. And I'm not supposed to hold it against him? Sabine's voice cut in, sharp as ice. If he doesn't care, I do. She looked at Grace with undisguised contempt. Since you love him so much, you can take my revenge alongside him. Get out. Hearing Sabine threaten revenge on Jordan, Grace panicked. She hurriedly tried to explain. Domi, Jordan and I are only like brother and sister. I don't love him. The one I've always loved is you. I forced myself to meet her eyes. Grace, you're ridiculous. If you don't love him, why do you fuss over him constantly and even marry him? You claim you loved me, yet you abandoned me before the engagement and married someone else. And now you suddenly come back 4 years later. Grace, even the Olympics are held once in 4 years, and then you remember me? You call that love? Her face darkened. And how much better are you? At least I told you openly. What about you? When did you start hooking up with her? The slap came fast and hard. Sabine's hand struck Grace's face with a crisp sound. Say one more word of nonsense and I'll ruin you right here. Grace covered her bleeding cheek and screamed. I hit the mark, didn't I? Otherwise, how could you two have such a big child? Even after 4 years, she could still throw that kind of filth at me. I closed my eyes, exhausted. Sabine, I don't want to see her or hear her anymore. The bodyguards immediately dragged Grace out. When Sabine returned, there was a violent chill in her expression, but her voice softened as she sat beside me. Don't waste your energy on people like her. I nodded faintly, and my thoughts drifted back to the first time I met Sabine. It had all started because of her billionaire father, who adored countryside farmhouses. After he discovered my dad, a brilliant, almost legendary livestock breeder, the two men instantly became friends. Soon their entire family became frequent visitors to our home. After Grace abandoned me, the normally cold and distant Sabine changed. She stayed by my side, her warmth and care slowly piecing together the ruins of my broken heart. Before long, our families arranged our marriage. Sabine, for the rest of my life, you are the only one who moves my heart. In the business world, she was a powerful and decisive CEO, but in everyday life she would sit with me at roadside food stalls without a hint of complaint. After Grace returned, Jordan no longer mentioned divorce. Not only had he lost Sabine Ning, the ideal next, better option, he had also completely offended the Ning family. There was no way he would give up the Han family, his safe harbor. Grace, Sabine definitely won't tolerate me. Without you, how am I supposed to survive? Can you really bear to see me homeless? Grace's voice turned cold. I'll give you everything you deserve from a separation. If you want this villa, I can give it to you too. I'm leaving. She went upstairs to pack. Jordan burst into tears and wrapped his arms around her from behind. Grace, if you insist on bringing Domingo back, I can accept him, even his child. Domingo refused to return to you before because he must have been worried about the child. He got together with Sabine not long after leaving you. How deep could their feelings be? His family is so poor. How could the Ning family possibly accept him wholeheartedly? As long as you accept his child, he'll definitely still like you. I don't want to separate from you. The 4 of us can live together just fine. Domingo loves you so much, he'll definitely agree. Grace's hands stilled over the suitcase. She hesitated, then slowly turned to look at him. Really? Jordan nodded pitifully. As long as I can live with you, I can accept anything. Emotion flooded her face as she hugged him tightly. Jordan, you're right. I'll go bring Domingo back right now. As she hurried out in excitement, the gentle smile on Jordan's face gradually twisted into something cold. Grace, it's been 4 years and you still don't have me in your heart. Why? If you won't give me love, then give me all the family assets. I did not let Sabine suppress the Han family. The rise and fall of a corporation affects far more than just one household. There are countless employees whose livelihoods depend on it. I am just a small person. I don't want to accumulate that kind of karma. A family like the Han family will fall sooner or later. There is no need for us to dirty our own hands. But our restraint only made Grace believe that I still had lingering feelings for her, and even Sabine began to hesitate when it came to taking action against her. Domingo! Jordan has nowhere to go right now, so I can't divorce him yet. Grace shouted from outside the villa gate, blocked firmly by the bodyguards. But he said he's willing to accept you and me being together. It was as if she had made some enormous decision. She clenched her teeth and screamed, even if the child is yours and Sabine's, Jordan and I can accept him. I can be the child's mother. I know Sabine must be using money to force you to stay with her. You still love me. Come back to me. I'll take care of you. Inside the house, Sabine, who had been held back by me, suddenly clenched her fists and stood up, unable to endure it any longer. Grace is begging to die. This time I did not stop her. I had never planned to be someone who allowed others to trample over him without end. She came to our door to bully us. Why should we tolerate it? Grace left limping, her nose bruised, her face swollen, blood staining the corner of her lips. Sabine's voice was cold as ice. If you dare pester Domingo again, it won't just be you who gets hurt. Your entire Han family, from the people to the company, will suffer. Grace hobbled away without agreeing, yet without continuing to argue. For the next half-month, she did not show up again. Just as I began to think she had finally given up, news about her reached me. She had been kicked out of the Han family's company. Jordan did not divorce her. Instead, while she was busy harassing me and recovering from her injuries, he used his position as her CEO husband to his full advantage. He transferred all of Grace's shares and properties into his own name. In the past, Grace had been obedient to him in everything. People at the company were used to it, assuming it was simply a loving gesture from the boss toward his spouse. This time, however, Grace had no idea what was happening. Once the asset transfer was completed, Jordan ruthlessly threw her out of the company. At the villa, Jordan tossed all of Grace's belongings out the door. Grace, you insisted on divorcing me for 4 years. Fine. I'll grant your wish. Get out of my villa. Grace glared at him, furious. You bastard. Haven't I treated you well enough? You actually schemed against me? Jordan stood on the stairs, looking down at her with open contempt. Grace, you've got it backwards. It's because I manipulated you that you treated me well. Otherwise, would you really have married me and abandoned Domingo? Everything you have now came from my planning. And you? You're nothing but a dog who eats from one bowl while eyeing another. You deserve every bit of this. Grace was thrown out in complete humiliation, carrying nothing but a single bag as she wandered the streets. Her heart was filled with hatred toward Jordan and hatred toward me. 2 months later, when I took my child out to play, we were suddenly kidnapped. Something sharp pierced my back, an unknown injection, and instantly all the strength drained from my body. My eyes were blindfolded. With the last of my strength, I clutched my son tightly in my arms, not daring to loosen my grip even for a second. Panic surged through me. My entire body trembled, yet all I could do was whisper softly to comfort him. The person who kidnapped me wore a mask and made no sound. The only thing I was grateful for was that she did not try to snatch my son from my arms. Who are you? Are you after money? My voice trembled in the darkness, echoing hollowly in the empty space. She did not respond. How much do you want? You can take everything I own. If it's not enough, you can call my wife. He can pay whatever price you want. Just don't hurt me or my child. Silence again. My heart pounded so violently it felt as if it would claw its way out of my throat. I forced myself to keep bargaining. If you're afraid my wife will call the police, you can release the child first. Take me instead. Once you feel safe, we can talk. At last, the person spoke, her voice unexpectedly bright with delight. You're willing to go with me? That voice. Grace. Yes, I knew Domi would recognize my voice. Grace reached out and gently removed the black cloth from my eyes. When my vision adjusted to the light, the first thing I did was check my child carefully from head to toe. Only then did I look at Grace in shock. She was no longer the clean, sharp general manager she once had been. Her white blouse had yellowed. The collar was curled. Her bangs hung over her eyes. She looked pale and frighteningly thin. What happened to you? Grace leaned her face close to mine, and I instinctively shrank back in fear. Her bloodshot eyes locked onto me, but she was smiling. Domi, you still care about me. You still love me, don't you? What happened back then was all that bastard Jordan's scheme. He approached me on purpose, forced me to marry him. Everything was for my money. Domi, it was my fault back then. Give me another chance, please. I'll take you and your son away. We'll disappear together. Looking at the twisted expression on her face, I did not dare make any sudden movement. Her mental state was clearly unstable. She grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. Domi. Okay? Please. We can live happily as a family. Will you? Yes, I will. I shouted the answer almost instinctively, desperate and loud, and only then did she slowly begin to calm down. Good. We'll leave now. Let's go. She turned and started rummaging through the warehouse, gathering things as if she were preparing for a long journey. My feet were shackled to the chair with heavy chains. While she wasn't looking, I slipped my necklace off, tossed it onto the ground, and crushed it beneath my foot, activating the tracker hidden inside. Sabine had arranged safety measures for me long ago. As long as I could keep Grace steady, Sabine would find this place. Domi, let's go. Grace grabbed a bag and ran over excitedly, crouching to unlock the chain around my legs. I was still trying to think of a way to hide what I had done and delay her a little longer when a sudden noise came from inside a nearby metal box. What was that? Grace's voice sharpened instantly. Ignore him. She tugged at me, trying to pull me away. A chill crept up my spine. I looked more carefully at the metal box and noticed dried blood seeping from underneath it. Blood. I cried out in shock. Still alive, Grace replied coldly. Domi. He ruined our chance to get married. He deserves it. My entire body turned cold. Goosebumps rose along my arms. Jordan is in there? What did you do to him? My voice shook uncontrollably, like a thread about to snap. Grace started walking toward the metal box, but before she could reach it, a gunshot rang out. A bullet struck her thigh, and she collapsed to the ground. I grabbed my child and ran as far as I could. Wife! The moment I saw Sabine, I rushed straight into her arms. The three of us clung to each other tightly. Leaning against her, every bit of strength I had been forcing myself to hold on to finally drained away. Grace was pinned to the ground by the police. My hands were trembling as I pointed toward the metal box. There's someone inside. The officer pried it open and sucked in a breath. It's Jordan. The man reported missing 2 days ago. He's still alive. Jordan had been bound inside the box, multiple stab wounds covering his body. He was barely conscious. I covered my son's eyes and forced myself not to look again. Behind me, Grace's hysterical screams tore through the air. Why isn't he dead yet? The one who deserves to die the most is him. Domi, I avenged you. Did you see? Did you see? Sabine, let him go. Domingo is mine. Sabine took me and our child to the hospital for a thorough examination. Only after the doctors confirmed that we were unharmed did anyone finally breathe again. Her eyes were red, shaken to the core. She kept looking at us, refusing to glance away, unwilling to leave our side even for a moment. When the three of us had finally recovered from the shock, we received the official police report explaining everything. After Jordan transferred all of Grace's shares and properties into his own name, he quickly began liquidating them, planning to move away. Grace, thrown out and left with nothing, could never accept that. She watched him closely, waiting until he was nearly finished cashing out. Then she kidnapped him, took back all the assets, and stabbed him. She had meant to kill him. To avoid being caught, she planned to flee far away. And before running, she kidnapped me and my child. She wanted to take us with her. When I finished hearing it all, cold sweat soaked through my back. Sabine wrapped her arms around me tightly. Don't be afraid. Jordan is in a vegetative state now. As for Grace, she'll spend the rest of her life in prison. She will never hurt us again. Sabine held my hand as we stepped outside. Bathed in sunlight, feeling the warmth of her palm and the warmth of the sun against my skin, the ice inside me slowly began to melt. It's all over.